Hello, dear viewers. This is Dr. Aisha Nazuk here. Today we are going to cover an important topic of probability, which is the concept of Bayes' theorem. So, before we start the discussion of Bayes' theorem, those of you who have just joined this playlist of probability theory, it's highly advisable that you watch the other videos on probability. And in fact watch the videos step by step. That is, first what the introductory concepts of probability, then I have another video on rules of counting, and then probably this video, that is the video on Bayes' theorem. You'll find this relatively easy to understand as compared to someone who starts the concept of Bayes' theorem directly. That's going to be a little bit challenging. Anyhow, so the concept of Bayes' theorem is based on two key notions or concepts, that is the prior probability and posterior probability. First of all, by now it's quite clear that you know that by the term probability we mean the likelihood or the chances of occurrence of a random event. Now, what is the concept of prior probability and posterior probability? Actually, Bayes' theorem splits data into two parts, or in other words, we have a sort of a, you can say, structural break in the data. So prior probability is actually the probability of an event if we don't impose any conditions. This definition will further become clear once we do some applied examples in the coming slides, and then maybe you can watch the video again from the start to better understand, because by doing some examples then the concept of prior probability and posterior probability will be much clearer. For now you can understand that prior probability are not imposing any restrictions or conditions on a random event, whereas posterior probability imposes a condition or a restriction on a random event. So this theorem is called Bayes' theorem, and it starts, as I said, with the concept of prior probability. Then after having some new information, we revise our estimates of probability, and then we apply the Bayes' theorem to derive fresh estimates of some probability that we call the posterior probability. So this is a flow chart of a typical Bayes problem or an application of Bayes' theorem. Now let's understand, or let's add to our information why this theorem is called Bayes' theorem. This is named after a English mathematician and a statistician, Thomas Bayes, who happened to be Presbyterian minister as well. Presbyterian is actually related to the Protestant Christian religion, and so he was one of the minister in that formation as well, but that is just in you can say information that is not directly relevant once, especially when we are talking about his contribution in statistics. So anyway, he was a 18th century mathematician and a statistician, Thomas Bayes, and he offered an alternative understanding of probability once we have fresh data at hand. So the Bayes' theorem, it was the basic discussion could be found in a classical essay in statistics, which is called the Essay Towards Solving a Problem in the Doctrine of Chances, which was published in 1763. Then this work became the basis of the Bayesian estimation. Once you know the Bayes' theorem, and after getting sufficient information about basic or classical statistics, maybe in some later playlists we can also cover specifically what is Bayesian estimation. For now, what you can understand is Bayesian estimation is some other you can say understanding or dimension of statistics which is based on the Bayes' theorem. So as I said, Bayes' theorem is based on revising the prior probability with the help of new relevant evidence. So we will do some examples of Bayes' theorem. The Bayes' theorem is highly linked with the concept of conditional probability, so we need to revise the concept of conditional probability first to better appreciate the underlying concepts of Bayes' theorem. So conditional probability is the likelihood of an event occurring based on a previous outcome occurring. In other words, when we calculate the conditional probability, it means that we have some information. For example, if I say that what is the probability that you will win a typical cricket match that you play, given that you won the last match as well. So now I will actually, once I will be evaluating the probability of winning current match, I will have in mind the probability, the outcome of the last match. So this is how the concept of conditional probability is defined. So let's understand the idea of conditional probability with the help of some basic examples. Let's say we toss a fair coin 3 times. What is the probability of 3 heads? That is H, H and H. For this you need to construct the sample space of 3 tosses of a fair coin. Those of my viewers who have joined my channel earlier and they have subscribed to it, they have watched the earlier video, they know how to construct the sample space for 3 tosses of a fair coin. Those who still haven't done it, either they need to understand that concept first and then refer to this example, or watch my earlier video. Anyhow, we have to toss a fair coin 3 times. So what is the probability of 3 heads? We know that once we toss a coin 3 times, there are 8 possible outcomes. Let me show those again here as well. So this capital S is the sample space for 3 tosses of a fair coin. So you can see that the event in which we are interested is the event of 3 heads. So in the sample space, this is just only one combination where we have all 3 heads, right? So in the sample space there are 8 outcomes, whereas in the one or the event in which we are interested is only one. So the probability of pardon for repeatedly changing the slides. So the probability of triple H or 3 heads is equal to 1 by 8. You can also understand this even without making the sample space, that probability of 3 heads is equal to probability of head on the first toss multiplied by the probability of head in the third toss and multiplied by the probability of head in the third. So head on the first, head on the second, head on the third. So probability of head on a coin, you know, it is 0.5 if it's a fair coin. So 0.5 multiplied by 0.5 multiplied by 0.5 comes out to be 1 by 8. So either you can solve this with the help of the law of independent events. So head on the first coin is independent of the head on the second and head on the third. Or you can make the sample space as I just showed, and then you can count that there is only one outcome which has this result, that is H, H and H. And in the sample space there are total 8 outcomes. So the probability of H, H and H is equal to 1 by 8. In next part we have what is the probability that you observe exactly 1 heads. Now 1 head can occur in multiple ways. That is, the head can either be on the first toss, as you can see here that when I have split this 1 head into 3 possibilities, this could be either this combination or this or this. And when I use the word or, you know that I have to apply union operator or to simply add the probabilities, because now these conditions are not mandatory. Either we will have this combination or this, right? So that is why I am adding these probabilities. So probability of H, T and T means head on the first, tail on the second and tail on the third. And we know that the probability of head is 0.5 and so is the probability of tail, which is also 0.5. So HTT will be 0.5 raised to the power 3 because it will be 0.5 into 0.5 into 0.5. So this is 1 by 8. Similarly, all other probabilities in the next two cases will be 1 by 8 and the final answer will be 3 by 8. So now we will do another part which will be related to the concept of conditional probability. The part C is given that you have observed at least one heads. You see, this condition is now imposed. As I said, that the idea of conditional probability is that we are given some information. So this information is already given that we have observed at least one head. What is the probability that you observe at least two heads, right? Now you know that this is for sure that there is at least one head in the outcome. Now you have to calculate the probability that you observed at least two heads. So let's do this by using two different methods. The first method is when we define the two events and then we see how they are linked with the sample space. Let A1 be the event that you observe at least one head, right? This A1 is the condition that is given to us, that this is sure that A1 has occurred. Now we have to compute the probability of A2, which is the event that you observe at least two heads. So A1 is at least one head means that the entire sample space minus the option of all tails, because all tails means that there are no heads. So at least one head means either one head, two head or three heads. So in this outcome T, T and T there is no head, so we subtract it from the sample space, and as I just showed that the sample space had 8 outcomes, but once we subtract this outcome we are left with 7 options, so 7 by 8. Let me once again show the sample space. So this is the sample space and we are actually ruling out this possibility T, T and T. So we are left with 7 outcomes. That's why it's written that probability of A1 is 7 by 8. Now probability of A2. What is A2? That we observed at least two heads. So this time we have to go and refer back to the sample space and separate all those outcomes where we have at least two heads, that is either two head or three heads. So going back to the sample space, you have to separate out two heads and three heads. So you can see that this first option has three heads, the second has two heads, then two head, this has only one head, so the HTT can't be counted. So this is how I have filtered out the cases that are relevant for A2. So these are the 4 options. That's why probability of A2 is 4 by 8. Now we have to calculate the probability. If you look back at the original statement of the question, you have to find the probability of at least two heads given that you have one head. So A2 given A1. Now with the help of the formula of conditional probability that I haven't introduced earlier, so let me discuss here. The probability of A2 given that A1 has already occurred is always equal to probability of their intersection, that is A2 and A1, divided by the probability of A1. So whatever information is given, that probability is here in the denominator. So A2 and A1. Now if you look at A2, right, this is the event, and A1 is over here. I have written only this form S minus triple T, but let me show its actual form by enlisting all the outcomes. So A1 is this, right? A1 is this, that is at least one head, whereas A2 that is at least two heads. So here we have two events. Now you can easily verify that this A2 is a subset of A1. In other words, A2, all the outcomes in A2, they are already there in A1. So A2 is sort of a part of the event A1. So their intersection, that is which points are common in A1 and A2. Once again, the entire A2 points are common in A1 and A2, and that's why you have seen that the probability of A2 and A1 is actually equal to probability of A2. As I said that A2 is a subset of A1. So we already computed the probability of A2, which is 4 by 8, divided by probability of A1 that we just computed, 7 by 8. So once you divide these two, you easily get the answer 4 by 7. So this is the concept of conditional probability, that one information or some new information is given, already given, some condition is already imposed, and you compute the probability of other event. So let us solve the same question using an alternative explanation of conditional probability. As we just wrote, sample space A1, that is at least one head, A2, that is at least two heads. Now A2, given that A1 has occurred, this was required, right? This could also be understood as reducing the sample space. That is, what am I saying here is conditional probability is equivalent to minimizing or reducing the, or in other words, revising the sample space. You see, A2 given A1 has occurred means that the reference sample space becomes A1, because this condition A1 is mandatory now, right? It is given that this must occur. So that means that the reference sample space is no more this one, rather than A1 is now our sample space, the reduced sample space. And we have to compute the probability of A2. So in A2 we have 4 outcome, whereas in this new sample space we have 7 outcome. So the same answer 4 by 7 that we solved by applying this whole formula is also same here, because of course we are just doing one question using two alternative concepts of conditional probability. So I hope by now it's clear what is an idea of conditional probability. Next we will do another example. Let me focus on this. I'll make this a little bit easy to see. Just a minute. Okay, so next we do another example of conditional probability. Let's read the statement first. This time it's relatively difficult as compared to the coin example that we just did. So let's read the statement and then we'll solve it. In my town, it's rainy 1/3 of the days. So that means probability of being rainy is 1 by 3. Given that it is rainy, there will be heavy traffic with the probability 1 by 2, right? That if it's given that it's a rainy day, then the probability of heavy traffic is 1 by 2, and given that it is not rainy, there will be heavy traffic with the probability 1 by 4. So far we are given two types of events, rainy or not, and then heavy traffic or not. If it's rainy and there is heavy traffic, I arrive late for work. You see, now there is another type of information, arriving late at work. So this is the third event. If it's rainy and there is heavy traffic, then the probability of arriving late is 1 by 2. On the other hand, the probability of being late is reduced to 1 by 8 if it's not rainy and there is no heavy traffic. In other situations, that is rainy and no traffic, not rainy and traffic, the probability of being late is 0.25. You see, there is a lot of things that are at work in this statement. So it's a good idea, better that we make a tree diagram first, so we can enlist all the information or put all the information from this verbatim description in the form of a diagram, so that will be easy to understand or to conceptually relate to the information. So after making the tree diagram, we will answer the questions written here in part A, B and C. So first let's make a tree diagram, and before making a tree diagram, let's define the events. So let R be the event that it's rainy, T be the event that there is heavy traffic, and L be the event that I'm late for work. So now these are the three type of events that we have to analyze in the tree diagram. So you see that the base information is, or the base condition is whether it's rainy or not. So R means that it is rainy. In the question it is given that it's rainy 1/3 of the day. So the probability of rainy is 1/3. The alternative or the exact complementary condition or the complementary event is that it's not rainy, which is written as RC, or the complement of rainy. So if 1/3 is the probability of rain, you can easily find out with the help of the idea that the total probability is always 1. So 1 minus 1/3 is 2/3. So 1/3 probability of raining, 2/3 probability of not raining. Next information is, as you can see in the question, is the problem of heavy traffic. So it's given that when it's rainy, then there will be heavy traffic with the probability of 1/2. So I have written RT. RT means that it's raining and there is heavy traffic. So probability of RT is 1/2. That is, it's rainy and there is heavy traffic. So once again, by the application of the rule that the total probability is 1, so the remaining 1 minus 1/2 will come here, which means that it is rainy but there is no heavy traffic. So TC means no heavy traffic. Raining but no heavy traffic. So now we have split this part of the tree here, RT and RTC. Next, discuss the panel given in the below or the down part of this diagram. So RC, as we said, that it's not raining. So it's given that it's not really rainy, there will be heavy traffic with probability 1/4. So you see, that's why we have written 1/4 here. RC means not raining, T means still we have heavy traffic. So 1/4. Once again, 1 minus 1/4 is 3/4, which is not raining, no heavy traffic. So by now we have split the diagram till second level. Now the third level is introduced when we introduce the event of arriving late. So arriving late could occur in all of the 4 branches that we have made. So RTL means rainy, heavy traffic, and you arrive late, right? Then we can have that it's raining, there is heavy traffic, but you still manage to come on time, so you are not arriving late, L power C. So RTL means it's rainy, there is heavy traffic, and you arrive late. So let's see in the statement. If it's rainy and there is heavy traffic, I arrive late for work with the probability 1/2. So you see that arriving late, the probability under these conditions, that it's rainy and heavy traffic, it's given that it is 1/2. So how to compute the complete probability RTL? RTL means rainy, that is, if you see this part, it started from here, 1/3. Rainy, then heavy traffic, that we just wrote 1/2, then arriving late, that we saw the statement here. So 1/3 into 1/2 into 1/2, and then we get this answer. Then RTLC. Actually, I am filling all these branches so that whichever information is required in the solution, we can use the particular branch. So excuse me. So RTLC, it's raining, there is heavy traffic, but you still manage to come on time. You can see that the first 2 terms are exactly the same as in the first branch, because this is same, RT is same. Now instead of L, we have LC. So when probability of L is 1/2, then you know that the probability of its complementary event will be 1 minus 1/2, which is again 1/2, right? So this 1/2 here, the third term is, why is it 1/2? It is 1 minus 1/2, 1 minus the probability of being late, right? So then you get this answer. Similarly, all the other branches are filled, that I am not going to discuss all of these one by one. But just for the sake of clarity, let's discuss one more branch. Let's say we discuss this branch, RC, TC and L. That is, it's not rainy, there is no heavy traffic, and you still come late, right? So in the question it is given, on the, you see this part, on the other hand, the probability of being late is reduced to 1 by 8 if it's not rainy and there is no heavy traffic. You see, not rainy, no heavy traffic, then the probability of late is 1 by 8. That's why we have written here 1 by 8. So probability of RC, that if you see the first part of the diagram, RC, that is no raining, 2 by 3. TC, that is no heavy traffic, which is 3 by 4, multiply by 1 by 8. So this is 1 by 16. And the other probability of the, you see the later, the last part, we have the last term here 7 by 8. Why is it 7 by 8? 1 minus the last term 1 by 8, because this is exactly the same combination. The only difference is we have LC. So we have computed probability of LC is equal to probability of 1 minus probability of L. So LC means, probability of LC means 1 minus 1 by 8, which is 7 by 8. So that's how you can fill this entire data or the entire statement in the form of a tree diagram. Now to the questions in the three parts. Part A is, what is the probability that it's not raining and there is heavy traffic and I'm not late. So let's solve this part. Okay, let me write the statement again. The probability that it is not raining and there is heavy traffic and I am not late. You can see there are three combinations. So not raining means RC, T means heavy traffic, and LC means I am not late. That's why we have a complement of late here, or L. So this is equal to, and you know that all of these conditions are mandatory, so we multiply the probabilities. So we know that the probability of traffic or heavy traffic is dependent whether it's raining or not. That's why we have used this notation, that probability of RC, this is the base condition that it's not raining, then probability of heavy traffic given that it's not raining, because you see this event of traffic is dependent whether it's rainy or not. So we have used this symbol given that. Then multiply by the probability of not arriving late, that is coming on time. Arriving on time to the office is again dependent on whether it's rainy or not, or whether you face heavy traffic or not. So we have given that this is dependent upon RC and T, that is not raining and traffic. So now next is very easy. We have to simply multiply the probabilities that we have already done in the tree diagram. So RC, T and LC. Let's see the diagram again. RC, T and LC. So I think this is the part, yes. RC, T and LC. This is 2 by 3 into 1 by 4 into 3 by 4. So this is simply probability of RC, that is it's not raining, which is, you saw here, 2 by 3, multiplied by the probability of heavy traffic given that it's not raining, so which is, as you saw here, 1 by 4, and then the last is arriving late at work, that we just saw that it is 3 by 4. So it's a better idea that before solving any of the parts of this question, you fill all the branches of this tree using the concept that I've just taught you. So fill all the branches and then look at which particular branch is required for a particular part. That is, in part A we required this branch. So without even again calculating these things, I'll simply write the end outcome, which is 1 by 8. Right? In part B, let's refer back to part B. Probability, what is the probability that I am late, right? Now this is asking, apparently asking for only one condition, that is arriving late. So you can see that the probability of arriving late is dependent. You see, the arriving late is the last layer of this diagram. So the last layer is dependent upon the second layer and the first layer. So arriving late could occur in many different ways. If you see this particular, the first branch of first panel, that is this RTL, that we, in other words, we are actually separating out all the combinations where a person is arriving late. That is all the combination with L in the end instead of LC. So L is here RTL, then RTCL, then RCTL, and then RCTC and L. So these are all combinations where a person is arriving late, and we're simply adding all these probabilities, because as we know that for a given person who is arriving late, either he will be facing this combination or this or this or this. So we have added these probabilities. And how these probabilities are being calculated, as I just explained, by multiplying the previous probabilities of the previous events that are related to this combination. So we can get the answer 11 by 48. So you see that the probability of arriving late is, this could be called the total probability of arriving late. So total probability of arriving late is sum of all conditional probabilities of arriving late. If you see this first combination, this is a conditional probability of arriving late given that it's rainy and there is heavy traffic. Similarly, the second combination is the conditional probability of arriving late given that it's rainy and there is no heavy traffic. And similarly, other combinations could be described. So the total probability of arriving late is a sum of conditional probabilities. So this idea will be basically used in Bayes' theorem, that we will discuss later after completing this example. So in part C, let's refer back to part C. Part C says that given that I arrive late at work, right? Now this condition that we just evaluated in part B, this condition is given, already given that I am arriving late. Now I have to compute the probability that it rained that day. So coming back to part C, we have to find the probability of raining given that I arrived late that day. So R given L is equal to R and L divided by probability of L. So I'm just simply applying the formula here. So we already computed that the probability of late is equal to 11 by 48. We can easily find the probability of R and L, that is rainy and late. Similarly, by adding the probability of outcome that belong to R and L, that is, we will go back to the tree diagram, and this time I'll add all the probabilities where we have R and L. You see R and L. So this part, similarly this part, R and L. So all the combinations where we have R and L, we will add those, and then we will find the required probability of R given L by using the formula that probability of R given L is equal to the probability of their intersection divided by the probability of being late. So probability of rainy and late is equal to 1 by 8, as we just computed, raining and late. So raining and late can either occur with traffic or without heavy traffic. So we have added these two, and this is the answer, 1 by 8. So the numerator is 1 by 8, and probability of late that we just computed in part B is 11 by 48. So once we divide these two, we get 6 by 11. So this is another application of conditional probabilities. So next we do another application of Bayes' theorem. In fact, this is the first example that I am categorically claiming or declaring that this is an application of Bayes' theorem. So we'll cover the application, and then the statement of Bayes' theorem will be very clear to you. And then once you know the statement of the Bayes' theorem, then you can maybe watch the video again, and then you'll be easily able to relate how the Bayes' theorem is related to these examples. So consider that we have a we are dealing with a manufacturing firm that receives shipment of parts from through suppliers, So let's say A1 represent that the part is received from supplier 1, A2 represent the event that the part is received from supplier 2. Further assume that we get 65% of our parts from supplier 1 and 35% from supplier 2. So the probability of delivery from supplier 1 is equal to 0.65 and probability of delivery from supplier 2 is equal to 0.35. So let's say that we are given information that the supplier 1 provides 2% part that are bad, that is they malfunction, and supplier 2 provides 5% parts that malfunction, that is the probability of their part not working is equal to 0.05. So suppose that G denote that the part is good and B denote that the part is bad. So we have the probability of a good part given that it was ordered from supplier number 1 is equal to 0.98. As we just saw that in the table this information is given that the percentage of good part is 0.98. So it's understood that the percentage of bad part is 0.02. So from the first row, even if we have one of the cells from the first row, we can fill the other cell because the total probability is 1 or the total percentage is 100%. Similarly, probability of good given that supplier A2 was chosen is equal to 0.95 from this cell in the second row. The first cell is the probability of good part given that supplier 2 delivered it. Then probability of bad part given that the supplier 2 delivered it is 0.05 or 5%. So this is a typical structure of the tree diagram that we did in the previous example as well. So we have two layers in this particular example, that is either we choose supplier 1 or supplier 2. Then the part could be good or bad. Similarly, even if we order from supplier 2, either it could be good or bad. So the first branch is A1G, which means a good part given that it was ordered from supplier 1. The second branch is a bad part given that it was ordered from supplier 1. Similarly, the third part is good given that it was ordered from supplier 2. And similarly, the last part is or the last branch is that the part is bad given that it was ordered from supplier number 2. So by the way, I haven't filled the probabilities. I've here only telling you the structure of the tree diagram that's applicable here. So let me first enter the probabilities and then I will explain this part. So the probability of supplier 1, this was given in the question that the probability of ordering from supplier 1 is 0.65. Let me show that slide again. You see, we get 65% of our parts from supplier 1 and 35% from supplier 2. So the probability of A1 is 0.65 and of A2 is 0.35. Then using the table that I showed here, probability of good from supplier 1 0.98. So you see I fill here 0.98. Then 0.02, that is bad given A2, and similarly we fill the other parts of the tree diagram. So you see I have written here is now I am converting this into a conditional probability statement. For example, the first branch is A1 and G, which is probability that the part is good and you ordered from supplier number 1. This is equal to the probability of supplier 1, that is the probability in the first layer, multiplied by probability of good in the second layer, given that in the first layer we had A1, that is the probability of part being good given that it was ordered from supplier number 1. So it is equal to simply multiplying these two probabilities. So 0.65 multiplied by 0.98 comes out to be 0.6370. Similarly, I can fill the other branches of this tree diagram as and when required, or you can fill all the branches and then you can use in the particular branch whichever is required in a given question. So that's how we have applied the concept of conditional probabilities. Uh, Now the question is, a bad part broke one of our machines, that is, due to a bad part one of our machines started malfunctioning. Uh, so we are through for the day, that is, we can't do any other operation. What is the probability that the part came from supplier number 1? You see that we know that it's a bad part, so this is given that it's a bad part. We have to compute the probability that it came from supplier number 1. So we are interested in the probability of A1 given that B, or a bad part, has been delivered. So A1 given that B is equal to probability of A1 and B divided by probability of B. And what is B? Probability of a bad part. So we will actually, what we will refer back to the tree diagram. First let me focus on this numerator, probability of bad part. You see, probability of bad part could either occur by using this branch, that is A1 into probability of B given A1. By the way, here in the tree diagram there is a little bit of a typo here. This is not A2, this one is A1 because this is starting from supplier number 1. So probability of bad part could either occur from this branch, probability of A1 into probability of B given A1, which is written here, that is 0.65 into 0.02, which is 0.0130. Then probability of bad part could also occur from supplier number 2, which is 0.35 multiplied by 0.05, which is 0.0175. So we are going to add these two probability as we have just done here. Let me show that part here. Okay, so probability of bad part, if you focus here on the numerator, is simply adding these two, which I was just discussing, the two branches of the tree diagram, and the answer is 0.0305. So referring back to the actual question, so the probability of bad part is, let me focus again here, is probability of bad part is 0.0305, and but we have to compute the probability that it came from supplier number 1. So this is equal to probability of A1 and B, which is written here in the form of conditional probability as well. But even if you don't directly apply the conditional probability, just conceptually understand A1 and B, because the numerator will be intersection of these two, A1 and B. So A1 and B, that is supplier number 1 was chosen multiplied by the probability that it was a bad part that we just saw, it is equal to supplier 1 probability is 0.65 and the bad part from supplier 1 has a probability 0.02. So we multiply these two and the final answer is 0.4262. Similarly, if we were to compute the probability of a delivery from supplier number 2 given that the part is bad, that could be computed this way, right? So now we introduce or categorically write the statement of Bayes' theorem. So now we can see that the probability of AI means either of the supplier, probability of delivery from either of the supplier given that it's a bad part is equal to, you see in the denominator we have just the probability of bad part. So if we in this example we saw delivery only from the 2 suppliers, but what if we had n suppliers, so more than 2 suppliers, so we would have added all those relevant probabilities. That's why in the denominator you see there are multiple terms here. So probability of the new denominator is actually the total probability of a bad part from different suppliers, whereas in numerator we have only the probability of that particular supplier whose probability we want to compute. That is, if we want to compute probability of bad part from the first supplier, we will take A1, so the probability of A1 into B given A1. If we were to compute the probability of bad part from supplier number 2, then A2, and we'll put I is equal to 2 here. So irrespective of the technical terminologies here, what you can see that the Bayes' theorem relates the idea of conditional probability and total probabilities to calculate the revised probabilities of different events. You see, now this is a revised probability of delivery from one supplier, because we are imposing one condition that we know that the part is bad. Now we are calculating the revised probability. So this is actually the posterior probability of delivery from supplier number 1 if we put I is equal to 1. So this is the probability, posterior probability of delivery from supplier number 1 given that the part is bad. So that is why when we were introducing in the Bayes theorem in the beginning, we said that it involves prior probabilities, posterior probabilities, and then we linked it with the idea of total probability, which is in the denominator, and the conditional probability, which is in the numerator. By the way, the total probability is again linked with conditional probability. So this is the whole concept of Bayes theorem that we have covered in this video. So thank you for watching the video. So kindly subscribe to this channel to stay updated about different concepts of statistics. This particular video is from the playlist of probability theory. I have dedicated playlists on introduction to statistics, and then I have a playlist on introductory econometrics and another playlist on applied econometrics. And by the way, I have many other playlists. For example, one playlist is on statistical softwares, another one is on technical help related to everyday researchers' problem like downloading books or making Google Scholar account, etc. So the channel name, keep it in mind, Rao Hub, and Dr. Aisha Nazuk is your instructor. And thank you for watching the video. Stay connected. You can give your input by posting in the comment section or dropping me an email, which I will mention in the comment section of this video. Thank you for watching once again.